Well, a very pleasant good morning to all of our members, partners, colleagues, all of our friends. Thank you so much for joining this month's members information session. Now, for those who may not know, the Small Business Association organizes an information session every month in the form of a webinar to help us discuss critical topics, areas of focus from a regulatory perspective, policy, or even programming that may impact the small business sector. And we do so as it is our remit as a membership organization to ensure that we are constantly educating our members and bringing them information that will help to do better business. It is my pleasure today to welcome you to this, our June session, one that I'm very excited about because we're going to have a slightly different format today. You're accustomed to us having on the call professionals, subject matter experts who will, share a short PowerPoint presentation with us, and then we'll have our Q&A. But today we're going to have somewhat of an online fireside chat, if we can call it that, with our special invited guest today. And after that fireside chat, we're going to be entertained by our special partner in Copa Airlines today with a short presentation on their product offering. So we're going to change the script a little bit and have a different focus, a different format, but with the same objective, and that is to bring relevant, pertinent information that will help our members, that will help our partners do better business. This is what it's about, folks. So welcome to our session for the month of June. At the end of it, we'll ask you to stay on and complete our very short evaluation survey. This tool is designed to collect information on the session and for us to get your feedback so we can plan for future sessions. So please stay on the call for that. And if you are maybe first to our webinar series, don't fear throughout the session. Even you missed any aspect of it, you can go back and watch this on our YouTube channel because the session is being recorded. And also, we are live at the moment on our Facebook page. So in the event that you miss any aspect of it, you can always revert to these channels and watch the session at your leisure and at your pleasure. So in our online fireside chat today, what is going to be our focus, you ask? Well, there's a lot of talk about the need for MSMEs to export their goods and services, for us to internationalize and consider new markets of interest. Those of you who are following the association's contribution in our Barbados Today column on a weekly basis, you'll see our conversation recently about doing business with Africa. And in our press of late, a lot has been said about doing business with Africa. But we want to also encourage not only Africa and not only the traditional trading partners, but let us also consider our neighbors to the south, Latin America. It is very important that we know what is happening there with our colleagues, our brothers and sisters. In Latin America, as you know, we have several missions established in a number of countries, and there is some trading at present going on with our Latin American colleagues. But the question is, Latin America, I believe the main language, the first language is Spanish, and they may very well have a different culture to us. There may very well be cultural nuances that we're not familiar with. And we need to understand, but if we're going to venture into a new market, if we're going to venture into an area where the culture in that market may be different to what we are accustomed to, shouldn't we know a little bit more about them? And the answer clearly is yes. And because of that, the association thought that for this month, as we close out our webinar series for our financial year 2023-2024, we will bring on a subject matter expert that will help us to understand, but what are the differences in culture, the cultural dynamics? How should we approach the communication, business communication, if it is we want to consider exporting to our Latin American countries? What should we know? And today, we have a very special guest, and Rafael Pinto, who's going to help us to distill this topic to understand this morning in our session. How do we do business with Latin America? How do we approach consumers, potential partners? What do we need to know about the language, about the culture, the behaviors? And so, what are some of the don'ts? Not only the do's, but what are some of the things that we should not do? We're going to have the conversation today with Rafael on this topic. So you're wondering, well, who is our special invited guest today? Who is our subject matter expert? Rafael Pinto is originally from Brazil, but he considers himself a global citizen after having lived in 10 countries, including on the African continent, Asia, Europe, North and South America, and also in the Caribbean. He works with projects and business opportunities in several countries around the world through his consulting company in Brazil called Occasio International Advisory Services. His work focuses on helping entrepreneurs and companies to think globally, to do business in new markets, and to communicate more effectively with their international clients and partners. So our expert today is Rafael. Rafael, thank you so much for joining us in our June webinar with a twist today as we have this chat discussing, how do we do business in Latin America and the Caribbean. Let's start off, Rafael, but you maybe sharing a bit more than what I've read just now about yourself. Tell us a little bit more about the work that you do, in particular, in helping Caribbean businesses to do business with Latin American firms.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Holder. Thank you to you, to your team at the Small Business Association. Nice to meet everyone. It's exciting to be part of this. I like this conversation because it's a learning both ways. I want to learn a little bit more about how also your businesses work and what your interests and your needs are when you're thinking about internationalization. It's an honor as well to have a representative of Copa Airlines. One of my favorite airlines. I do use it a lot, so I know the importance of it reaching the whole of the Americas. So that's why I'm really glad that they're also present in this conversation. Like Dr. Holder mentioned, I'm from Brazil, but I grew up all over the world. In the Caribbean, I lived in the Dominican Republic, more specifically, but I've worked in several projects in many of the English-speaking Caribbean. So I've been to Barbados 3 times, and I really enjoyed it. Here in Brazil, I came back about 11 years ago after living in the United States in Washington, D.C., and I set up my own business focused really on the topic of internationalization. And what do? I work in 3 verticals, providing practical on-site and online training solutions for professionals and companies who want to think global, who want to prepare their teams to expand. So it's a training for them to get themselves prepared. I also work with communication. So it's part of the topic we're discussing today is how to improve to become more effective and more clear in your communication with international clients, colleagues, and partners. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit, like Dr. Holder mentioned. It's not just about having a great product and seeing there's another market. How do you interact with these clients, with these people on the other side of the other markets? Because sometimes it's a do or miss. Sometimes your business won't go forward because of this lack of cultural understanding. And lastly, we work with business development solutions. So really helping companies thinking of market entry strategies to different markets, international trade, and market research. And I work with several partners in different countries. So my network is spread out throughout the region mostly. So that's a little bit of my background. I just wanted to highlight, Dr. Holder, the importance of this topic, and I quote the EDX blog that talks about soft skills. Communication is a
Okay.
soft skill.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Yes, thank you so much, Raf. And as you know, we're using the technology, but the technology can be a little challenging at times. So I'm going to ask all of our speakers today. We know that our Wi-Fi can give us some challenges. So if we are not hearing clearly, we'll ask you maybe to repeat. Go over an area that you may mention that wasn't quite clear. And there are times we might even ask you to maybe turn your camera off so that the audio is a lot clearer. Rafael, let's get into our conversation following your introduction moments ago. I think based on what you shared, the first and obvious question that we want for you to comment on is, what should you say or do as initiate that contact with a potential consumer, an investor, a partner, on that initial effort? What should you say and or do? And equally, what should you not say or do as you make those, initial contacts with a potential prospect?
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Holder. And thank you. Let me know if the connection is going good, or else I can take off my camera. Great question. Very important. The first connection, breaking the ice. Let's just go back a little bit, reminding everyone that just like in any region, we cannot stereotype or generalize the region as a whole. Latin America is very big, from Mexico to Chile, and Mexico is very different from Chile, from Brazil, from Argentina. So we are Latin Americans, but we have to, from the beginning, understand that we cannot generalize the whole region when you're meeting someone. So that's the starting point. The most important thing is to establish personal connection and trust. So our region is very much based on this trust, on this relationship. This breaking the ice period, which means the moment you meet someone before you start talking about business. In Latin America, this could take hours. It could be over lunch. It could be over dinner. It's very different from the general United States or Canadian or Northern European interactions that you meet them, and maybe the breaking the ice period is about 15 minutes, maximum 20. So we have to understand that you can go through a meeting when you first meet someone and talk for hours about anything that's not related to business. So keep that in mind. It's important for the Latin American in general to a lot of the countries, and I say in general, is that they do want to get to know you as a person more. So this trust building does take time. Let's get into the first things I would say is be a little bit more little bit more general of talking about the things that you might know about the country. So in Latin America, we talk a lot about sports, especially football, soccer. So that's something that if you know a little bit of that, bring that up. People like to talk about that. People here in this region, we love to talk about this, especially soccer or football. Food. We love. We have Mexico, Peru are countries that are very proud of their food. It's a cultural strength. So ask them about the food or how it's made, or if you've tried this food at some place. This connection. I'm just giving you examples of where you can connect to them quicker to establish this relationship. People like talking about food, sports, music is very important in our region. So in Latin America, there's a lot of famous singers and groups that came out. If you know some of them, bring that up. Talk about that. Tell them how much you like it. Ask them questions about any other groups that are famous in that country. So these are quick to do things that you can break the ice. If you can maybe do some research. If you don't know, if you start from zero, you don't know anything about those topics, do a little bit of research so you can bring that up and ask questions. The second point, what you should not do, I would recommend, off the bat, the first connection, like you said, the first interaction, do not talk about politics. avoid talking about religion, and don't talk about negative things that are happening that might be in the news. I'm from Brazil, and and other people from other countries in the region. We know there are problems. We know there are challenges in our region, and that's not the first thing we want to hear you ask about. So avoid talking about the negative things that come on the news when you first meet them. We know it exists. We don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about the things we're proud of. So those quickly are first encounter suggestions, Dr. Holder.
Interesting. Rafael, as I listened to you, it said, don't talk politics, don't talk the negative stuff.
Absolutely.
Talk about maybe football. You call it football or soccer?
Football.
Football.
Soccer is only in
Okay.
the
So
United
you
States.
talk about football. I guess, and you asked about the reverse for us. We'll talk about cricket, maybe not now because the West Indies lost the opportunity to be a part of the ICC game, the finals. They didn't get into the semifinals.
Oh,
So I would say, maybe another time I would have said, let's talk cricket, but I'm not so sure that you want to talk cricket, to break the ice now. But I take your point. You identify what's positive, what's well known as a part of the culture, and in Latin America, you're suggesting that football is a big thing, and that could easily be an icebreaker, and then food and culture and so on, but definitely no politics. All right. Okay. Good to know. Would you recommend for someone coming to do business in Latin America that we maybe ask for, let's say, an interpreter initially to help with our communication with potential customers, partners, etc. Would that be considered an acceptable thing or not? Share your thoughts.
yes, absolutely. Great point. And you brought it up in the beginning as well. English, unfortunately, is not so widely spoken in our region. Brazil, we have Portuguese, and most of the other countries are Spanish, but we have some exceptions. Depending on what business some of your associates have or the members, and they're looking for. Uruguay, for example, is a country that has a very high percentage of the population that speak English very well. If you think of Mexico, you have a lot of people do speak English well because of the proximity, their experience with the United States, their collaboration with the United States. So I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. In every country, you will find a small percentage of people that may speak English well. These are people that have studied in bilingual schools or studied or worked abroad. So the solution, as you mentioned, is interpreters. Yes, and nearly all these countries, I've worked with clients where we have to go to different places, and sometimes they do hire interpreters exactly to help in business meetings. That's important. I would also say that oh yeah, well that's the communication. So interpretation, it is recommended, and you can find companies that can provide this service. But again, people might understand a little English a little bit better, but it's more difficult for people to speak it. But don't expect, yeah, you come to a country here, unless I give the exceptions of Uruguay, Argentina a little bit, and Mexico. They might have more people in general that will understand and speak English. The rest, it's very difficult. You need some assistance in your meetings.
All right, that's important to note because you don't want that it is considered offensive either. You don't want to do something that is considered offensive to the culture. So if you're suggesting that yes, getting an interpreter is acceptable in trying to have that initial conversation, but that's fine. But let's segue now into the actual marketing of the product or service, because we're business people. We want to get our products, we want to get our services into these new markets. What do you recommend as some proven and successful strategies that we can employ to market our goods and services in Latin America?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. The business person has to be prepared to understand the culture. I've seen a lot of this as a mistake where a company in one country wants to go to another, and their website is not even appropriate in the language of the other market. So think about, and there's so many artificial intelligence or Google Translate, you can prepare your website in another language. So that's one thing. If you're, because the local person in the other market in Latin America is going to look, they're not going to understand fully, and it's to your disadvantage if you don't have your website in another language, because they won't understand fully your product or service. So you want them to understand well what you're selling. Social media. Social media is very big. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. For example, my own country, Brazil. Brazil, there's some stats you can see online. Brazil is one of the top 4 number of users in the world, not only Latin America, in the world, in YouTube, in Facebook, Instagram. So if you think about Brazilian market, you do want to have a presence in these platforms. You can, a lot of people create their company page. I myself have one. You put a company page in LinkedIn, your company page, Facebook if it's relevant. So I have, of these platforms, I have my own company page. So there's a personal and there's a professional, because people do use these platforms. It's very important in our region. People use it. They're very social. Mexico, Brazil, especially. Influencers. Influencers are big, especially in Brazil and Mexico. So you can collaborate with some influencers that can reach 1 million or many people at once. That's one way to do strategy in the region as well. And another thing to take into account if you're coming to a country or you want to communicate with people in the country is the WhatsApp, the app WhatsApp.
What's up?
This is not very common in the US or Canada, but people do business. People sometimes don't even respond to your email, or it takes time to respond to your email, but they will respond to you very quickly in WhatsApp. So your strategy should include getting you don't have to get a local number, but making sure that you have this connection with a potential client or partner through WhatsApp. People do business a lot through WhatsApp, especially in Colombia, Peru, Brazil, Chile, Argentina. I work a lot with people in the region, and we communicate through WhatsApp constantly. So those are very specific examples where you can increase your communication and understanding how to communicate better with the people on the ground here.
Right. Okay. So it's clear that your business in Latin America, you have a website, to try as much as it's possible to maybe have a Spanish version of that, not everything in English.
Sure.
Or if, the that may be a significant investment. If that's not possible, at least proportional paraphernalia that we have, that we can consider having some of that, translated into English. That we can have the English translated in Spanish, rather. We can have the English version. We can have the Spanish version. If we go to Latin America, at least we have information, paraphernalia about the company that is in Spanish. So it's not, you don't want to offend persons. So you want to demonstrate that, yes, you recognize this is the first language, and you're going to adapt your business materials to suit that language. And you're recommending WhatsApp and social media as more powerful tools than even emails or even a website. Am I hearing correctly? Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. People love their Instagram, and people sell through Instagram. They talk to their clients through Instagram. Here in Brazil, it's very popular. So take that into mind when you're thinking about strategy, and you can do it for free, or you can do paid ads as well, or connections. So it's an important platform here.
About cash and payment systems. How do we go about then paying for goods and services? That we may procure there, or we want to sell over there. How do we go about concluding those transactions? What do you recommend as some of the models or the strategies that we should adopt?
Wait, Dr. Hook, I'm going to take off my camera because I'm breaking up a little
Yes.
bit on my side. It's my fault, my internet, if you don't mind.
Yes, not a problem. That's fine.
Thank
That
you.
is a creature of the technological environment that we're in. That's fine.
Exactly.
So let's continue and just talk a little bit about the whole issue of the monetary transactions. How do we go about ensuring that we can pay for goods and services, or that we provide platforms that consumers in Latin America can pay? What are some of the popular platforms, for example, that persons use there?
Yes, very important. If you're a business, you want to get paid. And there are different companies. Stripe is very popular more in Europe, US, but I think they use a little bit here. PayPal. I myself receive payments by PayPal. And I say this because bank transactions, of course, they exist. They're usually more expensive in fees, and it takes a bit longer to receive your money. But you know, with technology, Dr. Holder, I'm actually also outdated. There's so many new technology payments forms arising constantly every month. So there's a lot of things that I would recommend is do a little bit of research. There's a lot of companies that provide this kind of international interaction, a transaction, and see which one would be best for you. Because from my own experience, I know Stripe is very famous, but again, it's more Europe, US. PayPal has been used many times in Latin America. I still use it for my business. So these are ways that you can get paid that you have to pay fees regardless, but it's less fees, and it's also recognized. People do use it here in Latin America. But I would go back and do a little research because there's constantly new companies emerging to facilitate payments, international transactions. This is happening constantly.
Right. Okay. I want to go back to the earlier discussion about topics of interest. A comment that I have here, Rafael. So, as you could appreciate, you're coming from the Caribbean, you want to do business in Latin America, you make contact with a potential investor partner, etc. And you go out for lunch, you go out for business lunch, you go out for business dinner. And you want to be able to maybe close whatever deals and so on. So tell us a little bit about dress, for example, if you have to go out to this business occasion, this business luncheon, is there something, some restriction relative to dress? What information would you share with us about that? How do you dress? How do you carry yourself, your attire, etc.? And then the conversation. We mentioned some words earlier, but the conversation that we can initiate. What are some of the things that we may not want to talk about at that lunch table, at that dinner table?
Yes, excellent question. It's a good suggestion to always overdress instead of underdress, but it depends a lot also where you're going, Dr. Holder. And one of the points I wanted to bring up is even in one country itself, there's many subcultures. So you have a country like Brazil, I'm from Mexico, even Colombia, where it's important for you. My suggestion is to find out, prepare yourself beforehand, do a little bit of homework. Who are you going to meet? In which city are you going? So I'll give examples. If you go to Bogota, capital of Colombia, or Sao Paulo here in Brazil, people tend to be a little bit more formal. If you go to maybe Rio de Janeiro, Barranquilla in Colombia, you have a little bit more informality. So I would do a little bit more research. Who is it that you're going to meet, at the level of the person, if they're higher ranking in terms of the company. So I would always go more formal. But in many occasions they would, depending where they're taking you, they would tell you, come more relaxed because it's very hot here in the coast in this city. So you can, in conversation with this contact, you'll also get a feel of how you should prepare yourself in terms of dress and the city. So in most cities, some cities are more formal, like Sao Paulo, like I said, or Bogota, usually in the capitals. The conversations, again, I would also do a little bit of research of this person. I always tell people or clients that, maybe through LinkedIn or other areas, find out who you're speaking with. And I say this for, if a person has lived abroad, has worked a lot abroad, you know that the person has a little bit more international mindset. Have they been to the Caribbean before? Have they not? So prepare, and you can find this stuff through LinkedIn, or you can find a little bit by the internet. It's been very helpful because then you know a little bit of not to bring up topics that they might feel uncomfortable in talking about. So a little bit of a research who you're speaking with or who this company is. Do they already work internationally? So they have already this international mindset. Have they worked with international people? So if you're a business from the Caribbean coming, and you know that they already had this access to international, you know a little bit more of how they think, or if they never worked internationally, you have to maybe go step by step, explain to them how this kind of interaction collaboration would work in an international scope. Another final point to mention is, relationships. Building relationships is very important. So you want to sit down in the dinner, get to know the person first instead of talking about the business. Going back to the breaking the ice, because in the end, a lot of the business in Latin America is basically of who you know, not what you know. So you want to build this relationship because the person you're meeting with will open doors for you. So it's really establishing this relationship and trust first, and making them feel comfortable. You feel comfortable and they feel comfortable. I don't know if that covered your question, but I want to really emphasize this human connection. In Latin America is very much the human connection and building the empathy with them in the beginning.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rafael. That is very profound, very clear, and I'm definitely hearing some clear differentiators and differences in cultures, not only Caribbean, Latin America, but they can even go wider field. Because what you're suggesting repeatedly to us, if you're going to do business in Latin America, is about relationship, is about making connection and so on. So you have to pull out those social skills. And
Exactly.
it's not about getting to the point or getting to the transaction. The person wants to get to know you a little bit, so you want to let your hair
Yes.
down, as we say in the Caribbean. I'm hearing that coming out somewhat, and I think easily about say like say North America, where you're
Yes.
having a transaction with a potential consumer vendor partner, etc. And it's more let's get to the point. We
Yes.
don't have a lot of time to waste. Time is money, the saying goes. Let's get to the point. But I'm hearing a more relaxed, maybe even laissez-faire approach that you're recommending. Am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know I've traveled a lot in the Caribbean. I know there's a lot of social. The population is very social. They're very creative. So I don't think it'll be difficult at all for the Caribbean entrepreneurs, business people to connect with Latinos because I myself connected very well and very easily with my friends in the Caribbean. So I think it'll be very easy. Very, very important point you said. It's very different from the American, and the American is very straightforward. After some time, they don't want to waste time. But no, feel comfortable. In Latin America, they want to get to know you, and I think it comes natural to many of the Caribbean business people, to be honest.
Hmm. All right. One final thought. Well, maybe two. From me. What about time management? Would you say folks are very punctual for meetings? They insist that you start on time, you get there on time, and maybe offended if you don't. What about the issue of time management?
Oh yes, one of our favorite topics here in Latin America. When we go to meetings, we go to different cities. Yeah, and unfortunately, the general population don't follow a very strict timeline. When I live in the United States, so I came with this very strong mindset of it's the meeting's at 9, so I got to be there at 8:50, 8:55. But be prepared to be flexible. And there are issues of traffic. You have the big cities like Lima, Bogota, Sao Paulo, Rio, Mexico City. These cities have huge, tremendous traffic. So it's not an excuse, but it's a reality. People will come late because of that. But in general, it's acceptable that people will come at 15 minutes late. I would always say to my clients or partners, at least send a message if you're coming late. We understand the traffic is bad. We understand that people are a little bit culturally, they don't have this urge to get there on time. Usually it's just a cultural thing that it's accepted. They might come 15-20 minutes late, but as a good business practice, if that's going to happen, send a note. I'm a little bit late. It is traffic, and so yeah, it's acceptable. People will know that things don't start on time, and that's going to happen here in Latin America.
Okay. No, I asked that, Raphael, because I had that experience just recently, and folks sat me down and said to me, but be prepared at least for a 2 hour wait in some instances. And 2 hours, it's considered normal. I
Oh
was
my
I was very
God.
shocked. And that was a part of their culture, you know. All right, finally, because I mean, we can go on, Raphael, in this conversation. So interesting. I'm sure that the colleagues on the call, they too are learning a lot about what we call business communication. But tell us, as I wrap up this segment and we get to Copa shortly, tell us what one word or phrase would you recommend that we all learn if you want to do business in Latin America? What's that one word or even phrase that you would recommend that we learn if we want to do business in Latin America?
Yes, this is since I was a very kid growing up in Asia and in different places, I always like to say the word thank you. So thank you, and it's something that here in the region is very also appreciated. It shows respect to other people. In Spanish, it would be gracias, and in Portuguese, it would be obrigado. But I want to add another phrase, Dr. Holder, because we're very connected with people. We were very, we like to generate empathy. A lot of people here, after you have more intimacy, you get to know your business partner, your client a little bit more. People say amigo or amiga, which means friend. So when you have a little bit more intimacy, maybe not in the first encounter meeting, but you say amigo, amiga, and when they start calling you amiga and amiga, that's a good sign. That means they're starting to really feel comfortable with you as a business partner. So amigo, amiga. But obviously the key is thank you. Gracias, obrigado, obrigada, because it really is something that people will appreciate your show of respect. So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you very much. Well, I must thank my Spanish teacher, John Matthews, because I do recall, learning that one word. It stuck with me. Gracias. I mean, I think maybe that's the only Spanish word I know. So at least I'm on my way. Gracias. What's the Portuguese version you said?
I'm gonna write it in. It's obrigado, obrigada. So if it's
Obrigado.
if it's a woman saying
Obrigado, obrigada.
if it's a woman, she would say obrigada. If it's a man, I'll say obrigado. So I don't know why in Portuguese they separate the gender in Portuguese. Usually it's just one, but those are the words.
And as a business person, if so, the person refers to me as a friend, I should feel good that I'm getting somewhere in the
Yes, yes,
conversation.
it's a very positive that they feel comfortable with you. They trust you. So it's a good sign when they start calling you friend, amigo or
Right,
amiga.
amigo, amiga. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, colleagues. We've been enjoying this online chat here with Rafael Pinto from Brazil, helping us to understand a little bit about the cultural nuances and differences for those of us who want to do business, who want to travel to Latin America. So now, to help us to actually travel there and help us to get our cargo to several of the Latin American countries, we have a special guest, Aisha Lewis from Copa Airlines, and they're going to tell us a little bit now about the product offerings that they have. And many of you may not be aware that Copa is doing fantastic business, great work between the Caribbean and Latin America, making those links, helping us to connect with our business partners, colleagues, and so on, and also for tourism. So over to you, Aisha, to share with us now what Copa has in store for her.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holder. Are you able to see my screen? Just making sure.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So thank you again, everyone. Good morning. And thank you to Dr. Holder and the association for presenting Copa Airlines for the opportunity this morning to give a little information, as today the topic surrounds Latin America, which is very important and close to us. Right, so I am Aisha Lewis, as Dr. Holder said, and I am the sales executive for Barbados. And also along with me today, I have my colleague Joshua Pomair, who is the representative for Copa Cargo, which I know will be of great importance to small businesses and exports, etc. So I'm just going to do a very short presentation, and then I'll pass it on to my colleague Joshua Pomair. So as it relates to our network, currently, we have 85 destinations in 32 countries, and as many of you may know, Panama is our hub. Through Panama, you are able to connect onwards to any of our 85 destinations. As Latin America is the main focus today, I just want to highlight, we fly to, of course, South America, Central America, and some of the Caribbean as well. Just to highlight a few of them, in terms of Brazil, we currently fly to 7 destinations in Brazil. As it relates to Mexico, we fly to 6 destinations in Mexico. And as it relates to Colombia, we fly to 11 destinations in Colombia. So let's talk about Barbados and Panama. Our operations to Barbados would have commenced in 2018. And then due to the pandemic, we would have stopped operations and restarted operations in June of 2022, where we would have operated 2 weekly flights. Since then, we would have increased to 3 weekly flights as of July the 23rd last year. And then our business in Barbados is doing so well, and we see it as such an important market. At the beginning of 2024, we would have increased service to 4 times weekly. So currently, we operate flights on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Just to point out this very important note is that in terms of connections in Panama, so from Barbados, you can travel to Panama and then onwards to any of the 80+ destinations. One very important thing to note is that in terms of connections in Panama, you do not have to clear customs and immigrations when you are in transit. So it's not like, let's say, JFK or Miami, where you have to go through customs, etc. It's not like that for Panama. Once you get to Panama, you're basically going to your next connecting gate in order to catch your connecting flight. So that's very important to note in terms of connecting in Panama and, of course, onwards to any of the destinations in Latin America. I want to highlight one other thing as well. One of our services that we have, of course, Copa Airlines offers a number of products and services that cater to all our passenger travel needs, and in particular, our corporate clients, right? In terms of corporate programs, we have a corporate program whereby we offer upfront discounts on airfare once you sign up for our program. The process is pretty easy. It begins with a one-on-one meeting with myself to determine your eligibility for the program. And then once that is done, we are able to offer you like discount tickets once you meet the criteria. One important thing to note in terms of business and corporates is that one thing that Copa Airlines is known for is our on-time performance. We would have received the best airline in Central America and Caribbean by Skytrax for the 8th consecutive year. So that's very important to note in terms of punctuality for our airline. So besides corporate and the other programs and services that we offer, in terms of leisure, I wanted to include this as well, is that we have a program that is called our Stopover program, whereby it offers you the opportunity to visit 2 destinations in one trip at no additional airfare. So if you're going to, let's say, Colombia, you have the opportunity to stay over in Panama for up to 7 days at no additional airfare. So it's definitely something that everyone can benefit, whereby you can see more than one destination in one trip. Finally, I just want to say I'm sharing our contact information here, but just to let you know that as you continue to expand your business and delve into the Latin American markets, I want to encourage you to keep Copa Airlines top of mind. And of course, you can reach out to myself or Joshua to get more information on anything as it relates to Copa Airlines. So I'm now going to pass you over to Joshua, who will share some insights into our cargo services. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Dr. Holler, thank you so much for the space for us to be here. Rafael, that was a wonderful presentation. My name is Joshua Pomair. I'm based in Panama City. So as a person from Latin America, believe me that the presentation that Rafael gave you is a really good one, and he gave you some really good insight on how you can do business and also how to create relationships with your Latin brothers. So I just want to share a quick presentation. I am going to dive in the cargo aspect of what Copa is doing. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, perfect. So what you're seeing right now on screen is our cargo freighter. As you know, Copa Airlines is a airline that is well known for his capability to transport passengers. But in the past year, we have been creating and we have been establishing a good cargo business services. I always like to share our mission. This is the way that we do business, and I think that it goes on hand with the topic that we are discussing this morning. The goal or the mission of Copa Airlines is to be the leading airline in Latin American aviation and the preferred connection through Panama. So all of the connection that we do for our passengers and also for our cargo, we do it through Panama, and we connect north, south, to Central America and also the Caribbean. Currently, we have two modalities on where we do cargo business. We have our passenger operation and we have our freighter operation. Currently, we are traveling to more than 85 destinations in more than 32 countries. So we are basically covering a good part of what is America. And I think that we can definitely be a good option for you to start doing business between the Caribbean, Central America, and the South. Aisha mentioned a few of the countries that we are flying to. You can see on screen the countries that we are sending cargo. This is our offer for Central America. This is for the biggest countries in the south. So currently, well, Rafael mentioned that he flies a lot with us. We fly to around 6 destinations in Brazil. In Colombia, we also have a lot of flights. And the good thing is that we have the option to connect cargo and passengers with Copa, not only in our aircraft, but we also can do it with our low-cost option, which is Wingo. So with Wingo, we can also connect cargo using Colombia as the hub to connect through to the Caribbean and from the Caribbean to Colombia and then to the network. And this is the offer that we have currently for the rest of the network. Currently, we are working on expanding the countries on where we can transport cargo. The ones that you saw in light blue are the ones that we are flying passengers, but we are not flying cargo at the moment. But basically, we are covering most of the destinations that we are flying our passengers to. The second modality that we have for our freighter operation is our freighter operation, sorry. And we are currently working with a 737-800 aircraft. It is able to hold up to 22 tons of cargo. So that will be around 44,000 kilos, sorry, 44,000 pounds of cargo that we can transport. And that is just for cargo. So that's what I was mentioning before, that we have been creating the basis to make a strong cargo operation using Panama as our hub. One of the things that we are doing that we are very proud of is that we are connecting different destinations in the same flight. For example, we are flying from Panama to Kingston, from Kingston to Santo Domingo, and then Santo Domingo back to Panama. That gives us the opportunity to connect cargo not only in one destination, but also in two. And those destinations offer work also as an origin point of where we load cargo in our aircraft, and then we connect it in Panama, and then from Panama, it connect to the rest of the hub. As you can see, we are flying the freighter to our biggest destination, if we can call it like that. We are flying to Havana, to Bogota, to Caracas. We're flying to Quito in Ecuador, Managua in Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Kingston, Santo Domingo, San Jose, Puerto Rico, Santa Lucia, and San Pedro. And we are looking into expanding more the network of where the freighter is going into the Caribbean. So we are going to have opportunity to connect a lot of more cargo in the Caribbean through Panama and then from Panama through the hub. So that's why I think that this webinar was excellent, because it gave us the opportunity to know that we have the opportunity to do business, and definitely Copa can be a good partner in this sense. These are the products that we can handle currently in our aircraft. We can transport perishables. We have cold storage here in Panama and most of our destinations. We can transport pets. We do dangerous goods. We do a lot of pharmaceuticals. We can also transport valuable cargo that have a high value that you need to keep or you need to transport with a security. We transport live animals. So for the airlines, Pets are only cats and dogs. Any other type of animal will fall under the category of avi or live animals. We do artwork and we also do human remains. One of the greatest things that we're also doing is that we are not limiting ourselves to only connect cargo through America. We have a lot of customers that say, okay, Joshua, but we would like to ship to Europe. We would like to go to Africa. We would like to go to Australia. We have the opportunity to connect cargo also to those destinations. Because Copa is part of Star Alliance, that gives us the opportunity to do agreements with different airlines on where we can connect cargo to our different hubs, mainly from Panama. And from there, we can fly the cargo to final destination, whatever the destination might be. Currently, we are working with 3 different types of aircraft. We are working with a 737-700, a 737-800, and we are working with the MAX 9. So currently, we are, if I'm not wrong, we are up to 100 aircraft, and we are expecting to end the year with even more than that. So the capacity that we're going to have to expand and to transport cargo is going to be even more high. These are the dimensions and the maximum weight that we can use for our passenger aircraft. So it's 150 kilos per piece. And the exceptions for that will be Chile, Caracas, Maracaibo, Holguín, and La Habana, because local regulations dictate that we can only move 100 kilos per piece. For Ezeiza, Córdoba, Mendoza, and Rosario in Argentina, because of the rules of the country, we can only do 80 kilos per piece. And this is just a schematic of the freighter. As I mentioned before, the freighter can hold up to 22 tons. We have 11 positions plus the FAC, which is the smallest position in the tail of the aircraft. And as you can see, we can transport cargo that the height is up to almost 2 meters, and the width is almost 300, sorry, is 3 meters the length. So we have a lot of opportunity to connect cargo and to do business. And this is our schedule. As Aisha mentioned, we are doing great out and in from Barbados. And I think that is gonna keep growing. We are very, very proud of the work that we are doing. And I think that Barbados is gonna become one of the main greatest destinations that we have in the Caribbean. And this is what we are doing for cargo at the moment. Please just feel free to get in contact with us at any moment. I think that we can definitely start developing some good options for your business ideas. Thank you so much, Dr. Holder, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much to Joshua and Aisha from Copa Airlines telling us about the service offerings that they have on available. Folks, we've been talking about doing business in Latin America, understanding the cultural communication. And we couldn't talk about, you know, facilitating trade in Latin America unless we showed you that there is a mechanism, via transportation, airlift to get you there. And this is why we heard from our friends from Copa a few moments ago. One thing that they said, Aisha, is that you have a track record for being on time. So you don't leave island anytime. You make sure that whatever is your time posted, for that particular flight, you are on time. So consumers can rely on your on time record. Right,
Definitely, definitely. We stand by that, always.
Stand by that, okay. And you're growing significantly from here in this market in Barbados to other parts of Latin America, and we feel good about that. Folks, we started at 5 minutes past, so I'm going to go 5 minutes after 12, and I'm going to look to the chat now and see if there are any questions or any comments anyone wants to pose a question to either Rafael or Aisha and her team. You can do so. I'm seeing some very good comments. So persons have learned quite a bit from the discourse thus far. And I see Valis is sharing that you do at present do business with firms in Argentina and Chile, and can definitely identify with a lot that's been shared today. So thank you so much for that comment. Persons are very appreciative, Aisha, of the work being done by Copa, the cargo facility in particular that you have on offer. And you know, I suspect that as following this session, you're going to get some queries coming in, and requests for quotations and other information from our members and partners and colleagues. So, you know, very, very pleased about that. Here's a question for you, Rafael, about the foreign exchange restrictions. Because remember in our conversation, we talked about, you know, what payment platforms and payment systems and so on are available. Are you aware of any major restrictions that we should be aware of in Latin America? I know in Barbados, you know, we have some very tight controls here relative to foreign exchange, you know, and how we spend money, you know, out of the jurisdiction. But what about in Latin America? Can you share anything with us about any of the foreign exchange restrictions that exist?
Thank you, Dr. Holder, and thank you again for the presentation of Copa. It's very, very useful for myself to learn, to share to other companies I know in the region. So, I'm not an expert in this area, Dr. Holder, but I know Argentina, for example, is a country that you have to understand better how this exchange of transactions work, because I know they have new presidents and they might be changing the system now. But I will do some research. It's very particular per country, so I would prepare myself and do a little bit of research of the country you're doing work with, and I can't give you a direct answer because I'm not in this area. But
that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I suspect it may be that way based on each country, because even here in CARICOM, you know, we have some countries that they have a very, very, very liberalized regime, you know, for business, and then there those that are very restricted. Like Barbados is very, very restrictive. I think Aisha is in agreement with me. So yes, you know, you may have a block of countries, but many times their, you know, regimes are not harmonized, and each country may have its own set of rules and restrictions, etc. So if it is that, you know, you're going to do business, it is instructive that you research the individual and specific market to have a better appreciation for what obtains there. So I quite agree with that. I'm saying Vadas is here saying that we're definitely in need of more reliable and affordable ways to move cargo, especially for small firms. So Joshua, at some point, I know we had to get through this slide a bit quickly, but I would recommend that you maybe send us over those rates that we can obviously dispatch them out to members, partners, and so on, because Vadas is doing work as we speak in Argentina and Chile, and in the event that, you know, there's a need for those cargo services, we want to know what those rates are, and we appreciate that you're filling that void though that has been, you know, left by a prior carrier. And you know, we really appreciate that, and we all do understand that if you're going to do business with the folks in the South, our colleagues in the South, but then we must have the facility for cargo, to transport cargo. All right. So final comments or final thoughts then. I'm seeing here a request, please, for Copa in particular to put your contact information in the chat. So if you can do so now for us, we appreciate that. We have a request I'm seeing here from Kathy Daniel to do so, and others. Please put your contact information in the chat for us. For persons, you know, if they wish to follow up and so on. Also, remember, if you're on the call now, that we want for you to fill out our evaluation tool. So we're going to place in the chat for you now the link to that feedback form. It is there. Please go there now and complete that very short feedback tool that we have there posted. Please give us your comments. We really appreciate those comments, because these comments are used to help us as we go forward and help us improve. So, Rafael, I'm going to give you the final word. Don't speak in Spanish, but give us give us your final thoughts. Remember that we know gracias. We appreciate that. You're our amigo. At this point, we see you as an amigo. Working. You've been partnering with the SBA in prayer projects, so we thank you for that. So we can give you that title, amigo. But give us your final thoughts. We have our business persons here. They want to come over to several of the countries in Latin America. As you know, the current administration is encouraging that we do more trade with Latin America. We have an embassy in Panama. We have in Brazil, Cuba, we know, Venezuela as well. So we have, some contact in these countries there to facilitate our business persons who want to do trade with those businesses in those countries. So give us your final thought as we wrap up our discussion this afternoon.
Muchas gracias, obrigado. Thank you for the time. It's great to reconnect with SBA again with everyone. I would also compliment what you just mentioned, Dr. Holder. One way to look for potential buyers or partners is what Dr. Holder mentioned, the Barbadian embassy in these countries. Also, Barbados has the embassies and consulates in Barbados itself. So I myself have reached out to the consulate in Brasilia here of some other countries. And what part of their job, just so everybody knows, the embassy, the consulate, they build a database of companies that they know in Brazil or Mexico that are interested that you could reach out to connect with. So that's another way of identifying. If you don't know anybody in Mexico, perhaps talking to the Mexican embassy or consulate, they can orient yourself to different organizations in Mexico. That's a starting point depending on what your business is. I think that's very important. And again, finally, my own experiences, a lot of business and projects don't go through because of the lack of communication, lack of cultural understanding. Don't make this the challenge for your business. Make sure you learn a little bit more, try to learn how to communicate, how other people communicate, and that will strengthen your relationship with the people. Dr. Holder, can I add on the chat, I've created, this is something that I share with everyone. On my LinkedIn, I created a newsletter where I'm interviewing different professionals in different countries, and I have the honor of interviewing Dr. Holder, who will be representing the Caribbean, the first interview in the Caribbean. So I'm doing this project, and I put it here. Everyone feel free to follow, and in the newsletter there's a link for a YouTube channel, so you can listen, you can hear about the communication experiences in different countries. So, and Dr. Holder will be there shortly in the interview I'm going to be doing with her as well. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for your attention as well.
Muchas gracias, Rafael. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you're so right that many business opportunity go awry because of the lack of understanding the difference in culture and being able to communicate, across those cultural differences. So I quite agree with you. Any final thoughts from you, Aisha, before we wrap up our session today?
I just want to say thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity. And of course, Joshua and I remain available for any questions. Feel free to email us, reach out to us so that we can continue to share more information. And as we both stated, Barbados is doing excellent in Copa's eyes, and we look forward to growing even further in the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. And thank you to our members and friends, our partners who've shared a part of the day with us. I hope that you found this new format very, very informative, very instructive. We conclude our financial year with this last session in the month of June. But look out for July and the next quarter to come. We have some more exciting activities and initiatives on the cards for you, for our members. So stay tuned to the various e-communication platforms for the messages and for the information that will be shared with you. The information is here in the chat for Copa. Rafael also shared relative to his e-newsletter. Want for you to go on, visit the link in page and see what he's been doing there to help address this issue of understanding, different cultures and how to communicate better across borders. So once again, muchas gracias. I have it right. There you go. Thank you. And senoras y senoritas for being here with us. You're all our amigos, amigas. We thank you so much for being a part of our webinar series today. In Bajan parlance, thanks a lot for sharing your time with us. We look forward to seeing you again on a next occasion. God bless you all. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye for now.